there any question?
DA, when you said a firearm wasn't working, was this a BB gun or a pellet gun? What do you mean a firearm was not working?
I would best describe it as a replica firearm, which we intend in the future you'll be receiving, we hope, photographs of what that looked like. Very realistic looking, but I would describe it as a replica firearm.
Was it a toy?
How was the valet injured? Did the shot ricochet and hit him, or how did it...
We are still looking into that, but there are some indications that that is possibly what might have happened. He was seriously injured and sustained an injury in his eye. We are very, very happy that he is alive and recovering, and was in good spirits when I spoke with him about a week or so ago.
What do you think that... Did he lose an eye?
We have not heard that. I believe his retina is detached, but we are happy to report as of now that's still functioning.
What do you think the motive was for the suspect? He had a replica gun, obviously not operational. What was the motive?
I would not even dare to speculate that, sir. We have the ability now to know a little bit more about that individual, but remember, my job when we investigate a discharge by an officer is what did they know in that moment as they were entering a scene that was tense and escalating. They had a report of an individual that had brandished a firearm and had a gun at a location, I would argue, that was tense even 5 years after an incident that occurred before them. But I would never try to speculate what Mr. Root was thinking when he engaged in this behavior.
How would you characterize your discussions with Mr. Root's family?
Respectful, and remember, you know, just like the commissioner said, members of law enforcement show up to work, a 911 call comes in, they have to respond. The Root family didn't ask for any of this. They received a call today, or that day, the 7th, and learned that their loved one had lost his life. It was just a sad conversation where I explained to them that I was going to be honest with them. They would always hear from me before they saw something on the news, and that I offered my condolences for their loss. Say again?
Did the police act appropriately?
That's ultimately what we will be determining, and we will not rush to judgment there. But what I can say is we have a very strong working relationship, but in this role, we stand here and look to make sure the hard job the police do every day, that they did not engage in any criminal behavior. We'll be making that determination in the months to come, sir.
Thank you.
Rachel, while we have you here, I want to...
He's going to have to drink.
While we have you here, I want to ask you about one other news item, and Commissioner, if you wouldn't mind talking about it as well. There's been a series of murders over the last week in Boston. Just curious what your reaction is to that and how you're going to handle it. The mayor told us about an hour ago that they've moved up their summer strategy meeting in light of that.
Well, that's happy to hear, and I'll allow the commissioner to comment. We were together last evening at a scene in Mattapan, yes. And so it's disappointing. There's an uptick in violence, and certainly the Cameron homicide that happened with young people. Every homicide is tragic, but we're working as hard as we can with law enforcement and our Crime Strategies Bureau to see whether we can interrupt things before they start occurring. But I'm disappointed, and I need you to hear me say we will find these individuals and we will remove them from the community and hold them accountable. But I'll turn it over to the commissioner.
Thank you, DA. We're very prideful here in Boston. This is a great city. All of our communities are great. And unfortunately, the actions of a few have created an uptick in violence. I'd like to say personally right now, thank you for everyone in all of those incidents that called 911. Thank you to all of the witnesses. Thank you to people who helped provide evidence to help us facilitate these investigations, which have led to 2 arrests so far out of the 9 homicides. Here's another thing, folks. As I stated last night, in society, there are bad people, but the good outweigh the bad. And the people in these neighborhoods have been stepping forward. Not even anywhere near a stop snitching type situation. Everybody's been coming forward because enough is enough. Last year, we enjoyed a very low crime rate and homicide rate. One homicide's too many, but it's as a direct result of people in the community participating and helping us out, because this is all our village. So we will continue to work with the community, and we will continue to hold anybody that would take a life in Boston or commit the acts of violence. We will hold them accountable, and they will be locked up. And I'm happy to work hand in hand with the district attorney's office and our state, local, and federal to get this job done, because our citizens deserve better. This is a great, great city. The people that are doing evil acts of violence, they're going to be held accountable. Until that time, continue to work together, continue to call us so that we can get there and get the evidence needed, and in other instances, arrest the people that are committing the crime. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.